Well, the Fox News poll showing Hillary Clinton with only a 4% lead over Bernie Sanders for 4 percentage points, and that's in Indiana. Both candidates, of course, battling it out, but they both also have tales of hypocrisy. Now, there's a new report that found 82 corporations that paid Hillary Clinton had also sought to sway the government in some fashion. We're not just talking about big banks, by the way. Also, Bernie Sanders, you know, the guy wants to make college free. Well, his wife jacked up tuition by 58% when she was the head of Burlington College. Joining me now, Jessica Tarloff, Jillian Melcher, and Jerry Willis. Jerry, before we even start, I got to talk about your new book. Rich is not a four-letter word. It touches on some of this stuff and more, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot on college and college debt and how to prevent it. But I got to tell you, when you start at colleges like the one Mrs. Sanders ran and you jack up tuition, you double it essentially, it's hard to get out of that box. Another fact from that story, which I found fascinating. So it's a small private school, right? Only a third of the graduates were paid more than people with high school diplomas.
Are you serious?
Graduated. So
is that because of the major? Is that because they just, what is it, liberal arts? What was it?
It's just not a great school, and they're not placing people in good, you know, to place people well and to have them have good jobs, the college has to get behind that. That's one of the things you should be checking as you start looking for places for your kid to go to school. But let me tell you, you know what this is like. Kids are facing a ton of debt. They're angry, and that's why Bernie Sanders is getting the play he is.
No doubt. And you wrote about this as well, right, Jillian?
I did, yeah. I broke the story. And I think, you know, with Jane Sanders, it's not just that she hiked tuition. If you look at the default rate, nearly 20% when she left. That's up from 1% when she came in. And in fact, her entire tenure at Burlington College was somewhat of a financial fiasco. You've got Vermont parishioners now accusing her essentially of possibly committing federal bank fraud. So I think she has not handled this situation well, and it reflects poorly on her husband.
Jessica, these are your people.
No, these are not my people.
These are your peeps.
Bernie Sanders folks
these are
not
your
my
peeps.
peeps.
What is going on with this?
I'll take the Clinton corruption over this situation any day.
All right, well, let's talk about the Clinton corruption.
All right, since you mentioned it.
The speeches, the 82 corporations, they say, hey, you know what? We're going to give you $250 grand for a speech, Hillary, because you are so motivating. And by the way, if you just happen to see a contract come across your desk, can you stamp it? That's
Can you show me the email where that happened?
That's the perception.
Yes, of course, that's the perception. And we talked about this before. Unfortunately, the Clintons, both of them, have existed for some 30-odd years in the gray. And we know that there's no smoking gun. We know there's no proof of a quid pro quo here. Peter Schweitzer wrote the book about it, has said that himself. New York Times investigation, the same thing. But this is why her honesty and trustworthiness numbers suffer, because it always seems murky.
Can I just say something here?
Please do.
So why doesn't she buy into the idea that you want to avoid the appearance of impropriety? She says, oh, you'll never find a smoking gun. You'll never find me giving a contract to somebody, you know, directly after one of these speeches. No, of course she won't.
I think part
but
of
you
the
want to
answer,
avoid the appearance of
Jillian, part of the answer is $100 million. I mean, okay, so if you don't win the White House, you and Bill still walked away with a pretty good second place.
So poor.
Yeah, she's been pampered. I think she's really, you know, made a profit off of these speeches, and that's not a bad thing in and of itself. But with this story coming out, I definitely think that makes it just a little bit more interesting.
It may not be bad, but it's certainly hypocritical. You know, Pew came out early in the year, and there was a question about the government and rich people, and over 60% say the government favors rich people, and the same amount said that they do not. They do far too little for the middle class, and that's what's driving this election.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a large part of why I think Bernie Sanders has a platform, because he's speaking exactly to that. It's interesting because he's also a Washington insider of sorts. You know, he's been in government as long as Hillary Clinton has been, obviously doing it in a slightly different way. But that's absolutely true. I mean, a finding that I always go back to is 85% of Americans think that politicians serve their own interests before those of their constituents.
Wait, here's the numbers that really matter, in my view. Incomes are below where they were when the president took office, okay? Incomes are down. That's just not American. And also, we just found out from Pew, you quoted Pew earlier, 20% of Americans have a negative net worth. Negative. That means that their assets are smaller than their liabilities. This is tragic.
There's still millions of homes that are underwater. People who did get jobs got jobs paying less money, less prestige. People took a major step back in any traction to get forward. Your book, though, Rich is not a four-letter word. Can that help them get some traction?
Listen, I'm giving people advice on how to avoid the worst of the college debt, how to bring down sky-high medical costs. We just learned that Obamacare is going to be more expensive next year, right? We're also talking about investing. You got to, if you want to win, you got to play. You got to be in the stock market if you want to retire. How you do that, and how you survive retirement when interest rates are at zero.
Do me a favor, give Jessica Tarloff a copy of the book, please. and then you give a copy
Please
to.
sign it.
Ladies, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.